Okay, good afternoon. This is the last session today, I guess, so I hope you can stay awake. What I want to do today is to take you through the quarterly results of the last quarter of 2018 and the overview of the full year. After that, I want to discuss in a bit more detail the developments per business segment and update you on the latest strategy and targets for 2019. First, a bit introduction on Asian. Asian is a 50-year-old company, and we have defined 5 business segments we operate in, and we have organized ourselves in 5 main legal entities, all under the Asian Seafood Cold Storage Public Company, which is the listed company. We have subsidiary companies in Surat, Asian Surat, which is only engaged in the processing of seafood, mostly shrimp and squid. We have a subsidiary company called Asian Alliance International, which is located in Samut Sakhon and is a cannery where we produce tuna for human consumption and also pet food. We have a 100% subsidiary of a feed mill, which is Asian Feed, and there we produce pelleted feed for shrimp and extruded feed for fish. And then we have a trading company called Asian Food or A-Food, which imports and distributes seafood products. Last year we established a company called Asian Group Services, and this company owns the intellectual property of our group, trade names, brands, and also holds investments in other companies. And 3 of those companies were established last year. One is Taya, which is a company incorporated in Shanghai. One is Asian Group Europe, which is incorporated in Germany, and that's a 60% joint venture together with our partners Happy Pet. And then we have a 40% interest in a company called Interpretina, which is the marketing company for the Maria pet food brand. In 2018, this graph shows our distribution of products, both in terms of per segment and geographically. In 2018, our frozen business was steady with 42% of our total sales, which was around 10 billion baht last year. Our second biggest segment is pet food and fish meal, which is 31% of our sales, and this has grown from 27% last year, or in 2017. And then we have our feed business, which is 11%, down from 14% in 2017. Our tuna business, 10%, rather steady, and the rest is our distribution business. Our geographical spread is quite diverse, North America being our biggest market with 36% market share. Then our domestic market is 23%, and that's mostly the feed business, but also the domestic distribution and some pet food and frozen seafood products. 18% we ship to Europe, and that's predominantly Italy, the UK, and Germany. Japan is a market where we mostly ship seafood to. Middle East, that's the destination of our tuna, human tuna products. And then we have an increasing share in other countries, and mostly this is China, where we increase our value of seafood and also pet food. Asian is one of the first companies that joined the club against anti-corruption. That's the club of the listed companies, and we take that seriously. As other elements herein, we take our product quality and safety extremely serious. We strive to be a very fair employer and treat everybody in a good manner. And also in terms of our sustainability, we have adopted a policy which we have implemented also to not be involved in any illegal fishing or in unsustainable activities otherwise. As I mentioned, the company is more than 50 years old, established in 1964. Since 1994 listed on the stock exchange. In the years 2000 we have expanded the business from seafood processing, mostly siligo and shrimp, into feed business and canning, and that's what we have grown over the past 10 years. In 2018 we have added to that also a more consumer orientation, where we have established companies in the market in order to have a stronger foothold for distribution, and also we have been working on branding of products. So that's an exciting new stage for our company. So far we have mostly operated as a packer for other brands and other companies, and since last year we have moved more towards the consumer side. Another exciting message is that we have been awarded a BBB minus investment grade credit rating by TRIS with a stable outlook. And this is good because it offers us more funding options, and although at the moment we are very well funded, it at least offers us possibilities to fund any growth that we may contemplate in the future. The key considerations for TRIS was our track record in the industry. We have diversified our product portfolio compared to some years ago, and particularly we have a larger contribution of pet food. Looking at the last 5 years, we have made a tremendous improvement of our profitability, and as a result also our balance sheet has been much stronger now, with a lot lower leverage. And like I mentioned, our liquidity position is very good. Looking forward, they assumed also a drop in revenues of 3% for the 2018 year. This is only 0.9% in reality, and a modest increase of 4% of our sales revenues during the next few years. Looking at financials, first Q4 last year, our revenues were 2,565 million baht, with a gross profitability of 286 million. And although the revenues were slightly down, this was partly due to exchange rate effects, and also overall lower shrimp prices predominantly. Even though our profitability has increased a lot compared to the quarter in 2017. And with slightly lower general expenses, our EBIT from operations was 139 million baht, and this is more than double the EBIT compared to Q4 2017. Other income is mostly refunds of duties when we import raw materials, and we had exchange rate gains out of our hedge contracts. And as I mentioned, we hedge our dollar exposure, and this actually should be offset with any gross profit margin impact. But under the Thai accounting standards, we report this as other income. We had a relatively large amount of non-recurring cost, and this was associated with the move of our siligo processing operations from our factory in Klong Toi here in Bangkok to our factory in Samut Sakhon, and that incurred some cost. Also, we have had some obsolete, particularly packaging materials in our canning business, and an allowance for doubtful debts, which was mostly related to our feed business in Thailand. Altogether, our EBIT after these effects was 126 million baht, which was 25% up compared to Q4 last year. Our financial costs were significantly lower, and that was a result of a much lower average debt outstanding. In taxes, last year in Q4 2017, we had a tax credit as a result of revaluation of our deferred tax assets. We didn't have that this year, and therefore that contribution was minimal. And in all in all, our Q4 net profit was 97 million, which was slightly down compared to Q4 2017. And going forward, I expect that we will have a tax rate of around 15%. Part of our business is still under BOI. Some of these schemes are terminating in the course of this year, and that's why we will see a bit of a higher tax rate going forward. This, by the way, will be not cash out, since we still have possibilities to offset profit. Altogether in 2018, for the full year, we were almost making the same sales revenues as in 2017, 9.6 billion baht, which was, as I mentioned, a slight decrease of 0.9% compared to the year before. Two factors impacted this mostly. One was that the dollar traded at around 4.8% on average lower than in 2017. 80% of our sales revenues are denominated in dollars, so that directly affects our sales revenues in baht. Another effect was quite lower feed sales, and I will come back to that later. And these two effects were partly offset by higher pet food sales. Our gross profit very much in line with last year, 10.4%, and our earnings before tax percentage was 3.7%, also very much in line with last year. Altogether, our EBIT from operations was 387 million baht. We had slightly lower exchange rate gains. I think the dollar was overall less volatile than in 2017. And also in non-recurring items, we had a lower amount, and that was mainly due to the fact that we could sell a portfolio of bad debtors in Q1 2018, which contributed as a one-off gain. Therefore, our EBIT was more or less the same, slightly down compared to 2017. Lower finance costs, and that made our profit before tax 358 million baht, which was slightly down compared to 2017. And bear in mind, our 2017 was a record year for Asian. So altogether, I'm very pleased that we could consolidate this very good performance. This is the sales revenues per quarter over the past 4 years, 2015 to 2019. And what you see is that we have a certain cyclical sales. In the first 2 quarters, traditionally, our sales revenues are a bit lower, and in Q3 and Q4 they are higher. However, this effect is getting less, and that is partly due to the fact that our pet food business is less seasonal, and that effect contributes to the total business. Overall, in Q4, the volumes dropped 12%. As I mentioned, this was mostly due to our feed sales. We had a bit of a volatile dollar, but still within the quarter, this was on 32.4 baht, which was more or less the same as before. A good gross profitability of 286 million baht in Q4. And that was, as I mentioned, considerably higher than the quarter in the same year before. All in all, in Q1, we expect a similar sales revenues as a year before, slightly up. It depends a bit on how the dollar will move. January was, in that sense, not good, but in February now this seems to be going up again. Looking at our gross profit margin, this again is the quarterly gross profitability for the last 4 years, and this shows a steady increasing trend. Q4 2018 we reported 11.1% gross profit, which was quite higher than the year before when we had 8.6%. Overall, for the full year, our gross profit was 10.4%, and this is in line with our longer-term target of between 10 and 12% gross profit. We have some volatility in our gross profitability, and this is partly related to our exchange rates. As I mentioned, the dollar is impacting our business, and here I superimposed for the same period the US dollar Thai baht exchange rate. And what you see is that there is a certain trend that our profitability follows the exchange rate. However, what you also see is in the last 6 quarters, the dollar traded significantly lower than before. And nevertheless, we have been able to repair our gross profit to the levels that we are looking for, between 10 and 12%. By the way, you see the dip in Q1 2018. This was not only due to the dollar exchange, this was also due to a very bad market situation in squid. Q4 2017 and Q1 were not good for our squid business, and that also caused a drop in profitability. This has since then, by the way, improved, and we are trading our squid business again at decent prices. Looking at our quarterly profit, we are, as I mentioned, we booked 97 million in Q4 2018, and this was in line with the last year. 2016 was an exceptionally good year in Q4, and altogether over the past 3 years we have traded at a much better profitability than the years before. Our working capital. We have reduced the working capital days overall. Accounts receivable went down to 41 days. Throughout the year we had some higher levels, and that is partly related to our pet food business. In pet food we have higher credit terms than in our seafood business, and as our percentage of pet food is increasing, also our average working capital accounts receivable days are increasing. Nevertheless, we have managed to reduce it from its peak of 47 days in Q2. Accounts payable have gone up slightly from 17 days to 21 days, and this is good. We continuously look for negotiating better credit terms with our suppliers. I'm particularly pleased with our inventory days. Those reduced from 112 to 99, and this was a result of reducing mostly our frozen seafood inventories. We had quite some stock of squid in the first half year, and that has been reduced significantly. Altogether, our working capital days declined from 137 a year ago to 120. And in terms of money, you see that we have now dropped below 3,000 million baht with our working capital at 2.9 billion baht. And that's almost 400 million lower than a year before. This is very good, and that's improving our balance sheet and also our cash flow very well. If you look at our cash flow from operating activities, this was 1.1 billion baht over 2018, which was an absolute record. And that's a trend which of course is good, and I expect that we will be able to continue operating at lower working capital levels. Our return on equity was 13.8%, slightly down from the 17.2 a year ago, but altogether still well above 10%. Looking at our balance sheet, our current ratio is 1.6, improved from 1.4 a year ago. Our debt to equity ratio, which is the total liabilities divided by equity, went down from 1.7 to 1.4. And our net debt to equity ratio, which is interest-bearing debt divided by equity, went down to 1. And those are excellent ratios. Our bank covenants for DE are 2. So with 1.4, we are well below that. And in fact, we have a policy to maintain our DE at a range of 1.5 to 1.8. So we actually are at the lower end of that spectrum now. A good profit and a good cash flow shows in the net debt that we reported by the end of 2018, altogether 2,863 million baht, which was around 600 million baht lower than the year before. And this is also the reason why we had much lower interest cost. Looking at the structure of our financing, we want to have around half of this in short-term facilities and another half in long-term facilities, and then the current portion being in between. And we are very well structured like that. So on the short term, there's no intention to change this financing. Looking at the segments of our business, first at volumes, our shrimp business increased in volume with 18%, and this was good. If you look at the shrimp farming in Thailand, this is rather disappointing. The total farmed volume has not increased in 2018. In fact, it has decreased a little bit to below 300,000 ton. Nevertheless, we have been able to source sufficient shrimp and sell it in the market. Demand is not the biggest issue. Supply of fresh shrimp from Thailand is a bottleneck in our business. Squid is stable, as I mentioned. We have offloaded quite some inventory earlier this year, earlier 2018, and right now we are on a steady track. Silago is the little fish that is used in tempura dishes and which we export to Japan. This is a rather stable business. And other business is also more or less stable. This is mostly related to reprocessing of fish species. Altogether, our frozen business has increased with 7% in volume, not in value, as most of the prices have dropped in 2018 compared to the year before. Our aqua feed business, 27% down in volume, and this is, of course, a disappointing development. One reason is the stagnating farming of shrimp in Thailand. With lower farmed volumes, also the shrimp feed market has gone down. And on top of that, competition has very much intensified. And we maintain a rather conservative policy when it comes to credit. And therefore, we are not always able to match our competitors' offers. Tuna went down 12% in volume, actually maintained the same in value. And for tuna, this is a deliberate choice. We are very selective in our order intake, and when we cannot match a sales price with a purchase price, and then we don't take it. And we are able to do so because we operate in that same factory our pet food business. So if we don't have good orders for tuna, we shift our capacity to pet food. Nevertheless, in the last quarter, our tuna business improved in volume, and I expect that we can report some increased activities, volume activities in tuna for 2019. Our pet food volume increased 9%, which was quite satisfactory. Looking a bit more in detail in our pet food business, we produce this in Asian Alliance International in Samut Sakhon. We've always operated not so much as a packer, but more as a OEM co-developer, where we have very intensive relationships with our key customers, and with an extensive R&D team, we really try to partner with our customers in order to develop new products and bring them to market in a very short time frame. Our annual capacity is 38,000 ton per year. Now this is a bit of a mixed bag of cans and pouches and plastic cups. And of course, depending on which product type is growing most, we may need to add additional capacity. In total, as you mentioned, we shipped 22,000 ton of pet food products, and the main spare capacity is in our canning business, our canned products. Our volume in Q4 was 15% down compared to the year before, and the main effect here was that one of our main customers had shorter supply chain solutions, and therefore they maintain a lower inventory level themselves, and this also caused a drop in shipments in Q4. And we expect that this will take off again in Q1. Our Q4 sales revenues were up 2% compared to the year before, despite the lower volume, and that reflects the higher average selling prices that we are able to charge for these products. In the course of last year, we expanded our production capacity twice, both in our pouches and in our plastic cup lines. We will see how volumes per product type develop, and possibly need to make additional investments in the second half of this year again. Altogether, our sales revenues went up for the full year with 16%, and that's a very satisfactory development. What's on the agenda in pet food? We want to increase our R&D capabilities. So far, our R&D has been mostly engaged with customers for product development. But apart from product development, we also want to step up our efforts in process improvement and ingredient research. And this is what is planned in the course of this year. Of course, we want to develop further our brand, Monchu, which we announced in February this year. Monchu is a very exciting development. It's our first consumer product, which we will also market ourselves. It is fully in-house developed and produced, and we are very optimistic about the potential of Monchu, both in Thailand and in China, which is our main market for 2019. And next to that, we also have our joint venture with Maria, which is now selling for almost a year and developing very well in the specialty pet stores. It is possible to add more SKUs to that brand and develop our sales level in Maria as well. As I mentioned, China is on our agenda, is high on our agenda in 2019 for our pet food business. We have established a company in Shanghai, operating with offices operating in Guangzhou, and we are setting up a import, distribution and sales facility here. Next to the traditional way of distributing through the brick and mortar pet stores, we also are developing a full-fledged online platform, and that's a very exciting development. It's both in marketing, social media marketing, distribution and logistics, and sales transactions, all in one platform, which is a great development, especially since in China around 40% of the pet food is sold through online channels. Furthermore, in our factory, we are currently implementing some investments aiming at improving our efficiency. This is, on one hand, line automation. On the other hand, we want to complete the construction of our automatic warehouse by the end of this year. And that will be a fully automated warehouse where we dramatically will reduce warehouse and logistics operations, and also have a much better control there. Like I mentioned, own R&D, aiming at process improvement, the rollout of Monchu in Thailand and China. We also intend to increase our customer portfolio. Maybe you recall that I mentioned before we have a strong focus on larger customers, and that is helping our business. Now we also have capacity for picking on some additional customers, and that's what I hope to achieve in the course of 2019. Another important step is a move in dry pet food. So far we have only been involved in wet pet food, canned pet food. Under the Monchu brand we will also offer dry pet food, and that's important because in both Thailand and China more than 80% of the market is dry feed. So if you set up a brand, you cannot exclude that segment of the market. And what we need to do in 2019 is to find a suitable facility where we can also produce that dry pet feed. This is not a completely new activity for us. In our fish feed business, we also operate the same equipment. So technology-wise, this is not a big step out. Our tuna business, also in Samut Sakhon, also in Asian Alliance International, is a business where we focus on selective customers and more complicated products. We have no brands. We operate as an OEM manufacturer, and we also produce, next to traditional tuna products, ready-to-eat products, which are composite products of tuna and rice and other ingredients, which we mainly ship to Australia, and that business is actually also becoming a larger part of our overall tuna business. In tuna, we had a very good performance. Although our volumes declined 19% in Q4 compared to the year before, and overall 12% down for the full year, our sales revenues were almost the same, and this is a very good achievement since tuna prices have decreased in 2018 compared to 2017. Nevertheless, we have managed to increase our average sales price, and that has impacted our profitability very well in tuna. In tuna, we don't speculate. We don't buy inventories when we have no customers for that, and also we don't take orders if we don't have raw materials. We try to match it, and that has so far been working out very well. Our frozen business, as I mentioned, we have closed the production in our plant in Klong Toi. We maintain that facility, by the way, as a logistics hub. It is very close to the port. We have a cold storage operation there. So for our trading business and also for our logistics department, it's a nice location to be on. But production has been concentrated in two factories, one in Samut Sakhon and one in Surat Thani. Volume increased in Q4 8%, but averaged on a lower market price for shrimp. Shrimp prices have dropped compared to the years before. And that also has impacted our sales revenues. So squid sales was actually picking up. We had a difficult Q1 and Q2 last year, but Q3 and Q4 have improved quite a lot. And right now this is a more stable business than the year before. Overall, we did better in frozen compared to 2017, but we still have some steps to make in order to really get a good profitability here. And this is what we intend to do in 2019. Here you see the quarterly composition of our product mix. And you see that in the second blue, lighter blue portion is our value-added products. This is what we are trying to grow, and over the past 4 quarters we have increased this from 10% to more than 25% of our business. We want to continue that. We have some very nice products which we mostly ship to America at the moment, and we want to build on that to increase that product portfolio. And in fact, we also intend to decrease our commodity shrimp business. And that means that we are not so much volume driven in frozen, but more value driven and profitability driven. And this is a direct effect of the difficult shrimp farming situation in Thailand. Availability of the right specifications of shrimp is not so easy, and therefore we decided to fully focus on value-added products. And those steps will be taken in the course of 2019. That means investment in capacity for our value-added product lines. We are currently operating at 90% utilization, so we need to make those investments. This will also be an opportunity to further automate our production lines, and this in the end will benefit our overall efficiency in this segment. We still continue with our sea bass projects, which is processed sea bass, which is mostly shipped to America. And in the course of 2019, we also put more effort in branding. Like in our pet food business, we developed Monchu. We will do a similar thing in our seafood business, initially targeting the Thai market. And then as a possible next steps, we will go overseas with that. And I hope next quarter to be able to report a bit more about our seafood branding project. Aquaculture feed business, I mentioned that we had a difficult time in 2018 as a result of increased competitiveness and also lower market volumes. We see a slight trend in Q4 where we did better than in the previous quarters. This is partly a result of more development of our formulas. We have decided to modernize our formulas, not by including more fish meal. Fish meal is a very good ingredient for fish feed, but it's also not the most sustainable ingredient and certainly not a cheap ingredient. And we have some developments in order to improve our feed performance without adding the fish meal. And this is the result of a nutritionist panel that we set up in Q4 in order to incorporate the latest technology in our feed. And I'm very happy that already in January we are selling much better than the year before and also at better margins. So for 2019 I hope we can recover some of our market share and also improve the profitability of this business. As I mentioned, formula development is number one priority in our feed business, and we are well on track there. Another thing we started up late 2018 is some trials with the production of baby shrimp. This is a bottleneck in Thailand. There are not many suppliers and there's not many different types of genetics available in the market. But moreover, also the hatcheries that are growing the eggs to fry are small and quite diverse in terms of quality, which makes it difficult for a farmer to always rely on the quality of the shrimp. And for shrimp farming, the baby shrimp, the feed and the farm management are the key three things that determine the success of the farming. We have done some trials in a hatchery, and we have had very, very positive results in that, which is good and which is something we want to scale up. And next to our feed, we intend to provide baby shrimp to our customers in order to help them with their farming. Of course, credit management remains a constant attention point here, and we will continue to do so in 2019. Our distribution business is a bit of an opportunistic business. We import a lot of seafood, frozen seafood, and then we part of that also distribute, particularly to the modern trade in Thailand. We are looking at profitability of individual transactions, so both volume and prices are not the most important. It's a stable business, and also for 2019, I don't expect many changes here. Then, looking at our strategic actions, in 2016 we have formulated our 5-year strategic plan, which is called Ambition 2020. The key message there is to increase our operational efficiency, and at the same time also to move closer to the consumers. That's what we have been doing, and we will not change that. But there is a slight change in focus from year to year. And this year, as I mentioned, we will particularly focus on our frozen seafood business and reduce our commodity business in favor for our value-added business. Next to that, as I mentioned, our brand development. Monchu is high on the agenda. Our Maria joint venture is on the agenda, and I hope later on also we can introduce a brand in the frozen seafood business. As I mentioned, full focus on China and the development of our Thailand business platform. We are looking at dry pet food manufacturing capability, and no surprise that we are also looking in China for that. So we have conducted a market study to see if there are companies available for cooperation, and narrowed that pipeline down, and I hope we can follow up on that in the course of 2019. Overall efficiency, our warehouse project is an important capex. Our automation in Asian Alliance, as well as in our value-added shrimp business. Those things will be important in 2019. And then I mentioned our R&D and product development, not only product development, but also more fundamental research in processing and in ingredients. And then last but not least, fry supply to our shrimp farming customers. Of course, I like to take the opportunity to step out of the financials here and show you our new brand in Monchu.
Monday Monchu, Tuesday Monchu, Wednesday Monchu, Thursday Monchu. Friday Monchu, Saturday Monchu, Sunday Monchu, every day Monchu. Monchu every day keeps the weakness away.
Monchu, serve the best for your pet.
Hear this too many times, you cannot get it out of your head, and marketing experts have told me that that is exactly what is the purpose of this song. I'm happy with Monchu because we have produced pet food for many international super premium brands who have been growing over the past few years with the products that we produced. And as such, we have also gained a lot of experience in the formulas and in the characteristics of Monchu. And the product development in Monshu recognizes that, and we basically combine the best things of different other products into one product, Monshu. And those best things are in the raw materials that we source. They are in the functionality of the raw materials. We have to a certain degree, let's say, functional food in this product. It applies to the overall quality standards that we adopt in our factory. And this, we believe, is a very strong element. We produce everything ourselves, we source everything ourselves, and that's in itself already quite a differentiator in the market. So remember Monshu, soon in the shops in Thailand. Our 2019 target. This is the last 3 years, 2016, 17 and 18, and our 2019 target. Altogether 10.7 billion baht sales revenues, which is 11% growth compared to 2018, with a consolidated gross profitability of 10 to 12%. Within this sales, the breakdown has slightly different from our year before. As you see, our frozen sales target is slightly below 2018, and this is a result of lower commodity sales revenues. I don't expect that we can offset that fully with more value-added product resales, but that will be a temporary effect. Our tuna business growing 12%. I expect that we can do this. We have a good portfolio of customers at the moment, with some possibilities to grow our business there. Pet food, 16% growth, which is more or less in line with the previous years. This will be growth with our existing customers, and it will also be growth with new customers. Also exciting will be growth with our own brand Monshu. Now, this is something we introduce in the course of April, and for us this is important to get this in the shops and to get it accepted as a quality product. I think for the years after we will be able to set more ambitious sales targets for Monshu. Our aquafeed business, we think we can recover from the poor performance in aquafeed last year, and we plan to grow this to 1.3 billion baht, which is a 20% increase. Our distribution business we expect to be stable. Altogether 10.7 billion baht growth sales. And you see that from the composition, our pet food business and our frozen seafood business will be more or less the same. Our investment budget is for 2019 quite high. Before we normally invest around the same amount of our depreciation, which is around 200 million baht. For this year we are more ambitious. As I mentioned, we will invest in a automatic warehouse, which is 240 million baht. In fact, this is 280 million baht, but part of this project was already started last year. Next, in our pet food business, we envisage that we need to expand our lines, probably in the plastic cup section. I mentioned we will invest in frozen VAP line. We are also investing, be it modest amounts in automation, and that will be also a bit of an tryout. If that works well, and if we can do this without losing flexibility, we will continue doing so. JV investment refers to the investments in Thailand and in Europe. We are continuing to develop that, and that means also additional investments together with our partners. Dry food capacity, I mentioned that. We are contemplating to set up a production capacity in the form of a joint venture, and that would require an investment. This by any means will be a majority owned joint venture, because important for us is that we ultimately control the production and the quality assurance with our own people, and that's what we anticipate. And then we have our usual machine and equipment replacement budgeted 400 million, altogether 545 million baht. This is what I wanted to tell you. So, in summary, a very good 2018 and some very exciting projects going on for 2019. I hope to be able to update you in the course of next year through these Oppday presentations. Thank you very much. Any questions? Probably has been a long day, and I would thank you and hope to see you next quarter. Thank you.